I think it all begins and ends with the running back room, Johnny. And I think that's where we need to start here and talk about your boy DeAndre Swift.
Right here.
But first of all, Big Travie here with you. If you're seeing my face, that means you're watching on YouTube. Hit us with a like, hit us with a subscribe, help us out. We're going to grow the channel via the algorithms and the way the internet helps us out. This is something that's been evolving. You obviously love Swift. You loved him last year. We've talked about what's going on with the Lions. We have the change of coach. We've Dan Campbell coming in. We've got him bringing in a guy like Anthony Lynn, who's been a running backs coach in this league for a long time, was just the head coach of the Chargers. Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler. You look back to times with LaShawn McCoy in Buffalo. He's got some track record of using his guys and just being a guy that you want to be involved with. This defense is bad. Matt Patricia has just gutted this team, and it's not going to look good for the next couple of years. They have a lot of draft picks in the next couple of years. They don't have a lot of players they can put out there right now. So a bad defense usually means we're going to play some catch up. It doesn't necessarily spell good for a running back. But you are all over DeAndre Swift. You're digging in your heels here. Talk to me a little bit about the pros of DeAndre Swift, because we're going to have to get into this Jamal Williams news that's with it too. But I want you to set it up here and talk to Whisper Nation why they don't need to worry about anything with DeAndre Swift.
Listen, we're over here in Detroit. I'm going to take you over to 8 Mile. Listen, I already know everything you got to say against me, Travis. He is in a crowded backfield. They are thinking about bringing in a guy named Todd Gurley who has no legs. And
he does live in a trailer park with his mom.
They did go out and get Jamal Williams, who is a good running back and who's fun to be around. But listen, I'm telling you right now, look at what is going around on the landscape of fantasy football. And when you see this, Travis asked me before the show, is DeAndre Swift going to be a guy you're going to hang your hat on, or do all these, cautionary flags concern you? And I have stuck by this man like a true partner, because I'm going to sit here and tell you, Whisper Nation, that don't be afraid of DeAndre Swift. Now, don't take him in the second round. I'm not telling you that. Let this information sink in. Let people panic. Let his ADP drop, because guess what? When the draft comes around, people are going to be saying this. Oh, Jamal Williams, the 1A. Oh, they got potentially Todd Gurley. Oh, the defense is bad. Okay, well, let me ask you this, and let me just point out a couple of things. Anthony Lynn is known for, like Travis said, the running backfields that he's had. Oftentimes, what have we seen in those running backfields? It's the running back that's the most electric and the pass-catching running back. That would be DeAndre Swift. The other thing I want to note is that DeAndre Swift, it's in OTAs right now, but DeAndre Swift has already they've been saying he's one of the best players at OTAs. Now, they don't straight up pad up or anything, but they do, go out there and have them run drills and things like that. And I think it's very important to say this. So this was a quote coming from a beat reporter, right? Safe to say, Swift did not at all look out of place when lined up on the outside. This is why it's important. This is why I still think DeAndre Swift is not being seen at his true value. We're going to talk about the lack of weapons here in the rest of this segment, but DeAndre Swift's precision and short area quickness stood out among the running backs during route running drills. In 7-on-7 drills, Swift was unstoppable. Trey Flowers, who was his first victim, as Swift quickly gained 3 steps on the edge defender, who will be asked to drop in coverage more this season. Then Swift beat Alex Anzalone over the middle during the next session. Swift is a matchup problem for defenses, and I'm not sure there will be a single player on the Lions defense who can cover him right now.
Well, yeah,
let's
talk about the fact that the Lions defense is probably a practice squad, but still,
it definitely is. And here's just the last part I want to kind of hammer home and really make my case. We talk about these 1A and 1B guys. Okay, let's talk about them. Let's bring them up. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Those are 2 excellent running backs. Nick Chubb still going in the first round. We think he could be the number 1 overall running back. He splits time. Let's look at Alvin Kamara, he's DeAndre Swift's been comped to in this backfield. We got Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram or Latavius Murray. Okay, I'm pretty sure the last time I checked, the last 3 years, Alvin Kamara has been taken top 10 in drafts, and he's finished top 10 as far as the running back position goes. When you have electric running backs that are skilled and are going to stay on the field because their defense is bad, they need to pass. Who's the pass catcher there? It's going to be DeAndre Swift because he is the most electric. He's the most elusive. All these things are tying in to say, all right, this is going to be DeAndre Swift this is why he's going to be so good in this system. And, you can look at these other pieces and say, and point them out. But if you just look at the skill, what those positions what that information tends to lead to, it will point out that DeAndre Swift still has a tremendous upside. And Lynn has already said he's gonna quote unquote go with the hot hand. Well, I'll tell you who's going to have a hot hand often, and that's going to be DeAndre Swift, because we all saw what this kid could do last year on a bad Detroit Lions team. This offense could be just as, I'm not saying they're going to pass as much. I think they're going to run more because they have Goff, and they upgraded that offensive line, which was already ranked number 11 last year, Travis. They got the best offensive lineman in the draft. That signifies to me they're going to run a lot. So with that said, I do think that DeAndre Swift is going to end up being a steal in drafts because his ADP will get knocked down because of all this information.
Yeah, I have problems with this, Johnny, and I think
let it out.
I get what you're saying, and I think as your podcast partner, I probably hear more than anyone your take on Swift all the time, and so yeah, I get that. My problem is you do this job of comparing him to the 1A, 1Bs of the league, and that's fine. Even look at the Chargers. You could talk about 1AB with Melvin Gordon, who was coached by Anthony Lynn, and then Austin Eckler in the time that they cross paths. All three of those teams, though, the Saints, the Chargers, and the Browns, much better teams and much better situations than what's going on in Detroit right now, or what's projected to go on in Detroit. Now, I will say Goff has a nice history of throwing to his backs. You look at Todd Gurley in his heyday there. There's some combinations of, Dan Campbell used to coach for the Saints, so he should understand how to use both backs and impart that on Anthony Lynn, who has his own experience doing it. And I love all that too. I just think there's going to be this marriage of the thought process that happens here between we're going to talk about this, but I'll bring it up now. The Detroit Lions have the most available targets to make up for from last year, 360 targets. Okay, Johnny, that is 120 targets more than any other team that they have to make up for in this year. Okay, that's 64% of their target market share from last year. They have to figure out where that goes this year. Now, a couple things play into that. Jared Goff is not Matthew Stafford, but a couple things play in it for the other side. This defense is bad, so I do think they're going to throw more. So I do think that there is validity to saying that DeAndre Swift is going to be a guy that soaks up a lot of targets. One, we've already seen it. Johnny, you've pointed that out eloquently this offseason. We've already seen him last year. That was how he made most of his money anyways, in a limited role. I just wonder if there's going to be enough rushing capability to even it out. Do we think that there's going to be – I think that's the money. And how much is that worth it as a guy who's probably going to be not just a scat back, but an elite scat back for them, and a guy that's going to be very good in the passing game? And so, yes, do I need this to drive down his ADP? Yes, and we'll talk about that now. I mean, Jamal Williams is the guy that everybody's scared about. This is a guy who you've, been on this show saying, like, are we scared of Jamal Williams? Like, he didn't do anything for Aaron Jones, but once again, a better situation. Let's talk about the quote that Anthony Lynn said here. So in quotes, he says, Jamal is what I'd call a classic A-back, Lynn told Chris Burke and Nick Bumgardner of The Athletic. I like to break the backs down into A and B. I mean, this is sophisticated stuff here. My A-backs are normally my bigger backs. They can run between the tackles, block probably a little bit better than the B-back. They can also run the perimeter. I can leave those guys in there for all three downs. Matthew Berry quotes Chris Burke, who also quoted him again, and said, Anthony Lynn says he's going to ride the hot hand at running back. If you go in the game and you're balling, you're going to stay in there. Matthew Berry's take on this was, bless Anthony Lynn for continuing to drive down DeAndre Swift's ADP. Swift is still the most talented RB on the team and will be used a lot. To me, the bigger takeaway is that Jamal Williams, who is a lot better than he gets credit for, will be a nice value late in drafts. I disagree that Jamal Williams is going to be a late value in drafts. This team is not going to run enough for people to have value in that guy. Now, is he going to be more like a Jordan Howard that gets like a goal line carry here and there? Yeah, but he's not going to be a guy that you're going to want in. I do believe you're going to want Swift. I think the sweet spot is or I'd say middle of the third to the fourth is where you're going to want to take DeAndre Swift, because I do think he's going to be like a perfect RB2 flex option for you, but he's not going to be this RB1 that he was being drafted as early in the year, because I just don't think this team's good enough to support that. The touchdown opportunities aren't going to be there as plentiful as people think, and the rushing ability for Swift himself doesn't seem like it's going to be there for him, but the pass catching ability will be, and especially in PPR, I think you should be willing to invest. Anything you want to counter there with DeAndre Swift at the end, or do you want to say anything on the Jamal Williams front, Johnny?
I do want to say on the Jamal Williams front, I would disagree that I wouldn't be interested in drafting him. I think if his ADP is at the right price, like I'm not going to draft him in the 7th round or anything like that, but I'm not familiar with his ADP at the moment. I apologize, but I can't imagine it's like 12th, 13th round. I think as a handcuff or as that 1A, I mean, you got to think about it, like where are we taking
11th round in 12 team leagues, 11th round RB45.
I do see that there is an upside. Let's say something does happen to DeAndre Swift, God forbid. I will say that we have seen, Jamal come in here, and when he gets 19, 16 carries, he finished as the RB6, RB10. Looking down here, he had 17 carries week 12 against Chicago. He finished as the RB18. And so he does have some upside value for sure as a handcuff. And I think that that's more so where his value is. I don't know if I'm grabbing him to be like, oh, he's going to be an RB3 that I'm going to throw in my lineup every once in a while. I think it's just like, okay, it's a handcuff that he does have potential if he's a guy that he can actually get the work done and get the job done. I think that's where his value is. But I do understand if I'm not a DeAndre Swift, someone who drafts DeAndre Swift, chances are I'm probably not going to draft Jamal Williams, because what is the
upside pick for you if you're like, something needs to happen to Swift, and you got to rely on the Lions to be a really run heavy team that's just going to run it down your throats. It's like, yeah, bro, when they go to 3rd and 7 and can't throw it and complete it, it doesn't matter, because they're not going to have the ball again.
Right here.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click subscribe. And if you want to watch more fantasy football content, check out one of these videos.